What's up, guys? It's Ben Flight. Sorry if I sound a little bit under the weather. I'm recovering from a cold right now. Today we are talking about free shit. Everyone loves free shit. I love free shit. I'm an artist. I'm broke, so I'm always trying to make do with what I have. But if you are an artist and you are trying to make a short film or a game or anything nowadays, you have enough resources at your disposal, assets, 3D models, software, to basically do it all for free using free stuff. And I'm going to show you how to do that today. There's a ton of stuff that we're going to get into. And all of it's great. I've specifically picked out stuff that I think is incredibly useful, unique, stuff that's hard to find, or just otherwise stuff that provides a huge amount of value for free. I won't be including cheap, free crap. Okay, everything here is something that's going to be useful in some way or another to some kind of artist. Now we're going to start it off with the easiest, the gimmies, you know, the stuff that everyone knows, and we're going to get into more like obscure shit. So the first one is Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine is completely free until you've made $1 million. I think everyone knows this, but if you didn't know, now you know. But Unreal Engine on its own, amazing value. If you have not made $1 million, which is most of us, you know, and I think if you have, you're a big studio, then, you know, this video isn't for you. So all of us should be using Unreal Engine, and a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be saying today is for Unreal Engine. Obviously, it's got Lumen, Nanite, real-time global illumination, unlimited detail, and a lot of great, you know, plugins that are fully featured that are in Unreal Engine. More and more it becomes sort of a do-it-all kind of package for not just games now, but visual effects, virtual production, ArchViz for real estate, you name it. The use case just keeps growing for Unreal Engine. So that's the first off the list. Second, I want to talk about, you know, other stuff you might know, and other software you might not know, but there's a lot of free software out there. I know everyone knows Blender. Blender is very popular. I use it for some specific niche cases, but there's a lot more options out there you might not have known. If you're you know, trying to use Photoshop, but you haven't, you know, you don't want to pay the subscription to Adobe because their model is not great anymore, go for GIMP. You know, GIMP is free. If you're trying to paint and you don't want to use Photoshop, use Krita. Krita's free. It's a great painting software, a lot of great brushes too, and I feel like Krita has some of the best brushes nailed down for illustrators and painters outside of Procreate, which is cheap. It's not free. Procreate is a great software for about 15 bucks. You can have a software that is legitimately better than Photoshop for painting, but that's not on this list, but Krita is. And Krita has great brush optimization as well, which is something Photoshop still hasn't nailed. They've optimized their brushes in order to provide the lowest latency while still getting you the final result. So the way that they do it, you make the brush stroke, it does a temporary brush stroke that's not as high quality, but you wouldn't notice that it's sort of buffering that. In order to give you the most real-time experience, so you're not experiencing brush lag, which is nice. On top of that, we got some more great software here. We've got Zbrush Core Mini, which if you've used Zbrush before, or you're just a student that's learning Zbrush, Zbrush Core Mini is a great way to learn what is otherwise a paid software, usually pretty expensive software. But it's a great way to learn the basics of it and know the interface and know how to sort of navigate ZBrush without having to pay that subscription, again, to Maxon, who is following in Adobe's footsteps recently. And you don't get all of the great features, like you don't get all the retopology features like Z-Remesher or Dynamesh or any of that good stuff. And it used to be a lot worse than it is. It used to be you could only export some kind of weird like compressed image file that contained a 3D model. Like, it was weird. Now you can actually export OBJs, which makes it more useful for, you know, proper 3D modeling usage, but I believe they have it capped at 100,000 polys. which is actually still usable for a lot of cases. So if you're using Blender and you want to retopologize in Blender, you want to render in Blender, but you don't really like Blender sculpting tools, which I do not personally like. If you're just trying to sculpt stuff organically and you're okay with being limited to one subtool, then ZBrush Core Mini is a great way to start and at least learn the basics of a software that could have you covered for the rest of your career. ZBrush Core Mini is fantastic, a fantastic entry point, but I think we can get a little better because ZBrush Core Mini is Maxon's attempt to Maxon now, even though they bought out Pixelogic to get ZBrush, but it's Maxon's attempt to bury a software that almost killed ZBrush when it came out, which is called Sculptris. Now, Sculptris was bought up by Pixelogic at the time and added into ZBrush as Sculptris Pro, because what they were doing was dynamic topology. They were allowing you to basically paint with unlimited detail, paint or sculpt with unlimited detail without having to worry about poly counts, without having to, use like Dynamesh or something, which was the process at the time in ZBrush, was to have to retopologize your model every so often in order to avoid problems with having not enough resolution. Well, that dynamic resolution was added into ZBrush in the form of Sculptris Pro when they acquired Sculptris. That they were the only ones at the time doing that technology that allowed you to get sort of dynamic resolution wherever your brushstroke is. Now it's kind of in everything. Even Blender has it now. I believe it's called Din Topo or something. But Sculptris Pro was Sculptris was really the first software to do it. It's still available. You can still find it. It is not supported. It hasn't been updated in years. But you may find, because it actually still has legitimate texture support and modeling support, it does not have a limit on the number of polygons that you can use, and you can still export OBJ to other softwares. So if you can find Sculptris Pro and find a way to make it work on your your computer, or you have an older operating system, that still is a viable software, even though it's so old. It really gave ZBrush a run for its money back in the day, and it's still viable. Now, as far as other softwares go, you have Sketchup if you're trying to do real estate stuff. I think Sketchup is really sort of considered a joke amongst very serious architects, but it still provides like an entry point. If you're trying to get into architecture, you can do SketchUp, but you maybe would want to hold off on that until you hear more about the other options on this list, because there's more to go. And then, of course, Davinci Resolve, which is providing a free license to Davinci Resolve, feature limited, but still feature packed for the price that you're getting. So you're getting a great video editing software with some of the most industry standard, like color correction tools that are on the market. My girlfriend still uses, she's a video editor, and she's still using the free version of Davinci Resolve instead of Davinci Studio, which is the paid version. So I think that's a great option out there for anyone. And I know you can actually get a free version of Davinci Studio with some cameras if you buy them. So yeah, great option if you're doing video editing, which a lot of you should be. If you're not doing that sort of thing, it'll at least complement what you have. Getting more into it, we now have educational software. That's number 3 on this list. I have educational licenses to software that is otherwise paid. And I know this is specifically for students, but a lot of you guys are students. A lot of you guys are taking classes somewhere. If you're not, you can just go to a local community college, take a couple classes there, use the .edu email to get educational licenses. You don't have to be a full-on bachelor's degree student or something. You can take a course at a single course at a community college and still get the benefit of an educational license for a year. And what we're talking about is the entire Autodesk suite, which, by the way, used to be, it was almost impossible to get an educational license for that type of stuff. They've lightened up in recent years. I was trying to get my educational license through Maya, and it was almost impossible through my school when I was in college. And now they made it a little bit easier. You can get Maya, you can get Revit, which is the sort of premier architectural software, and it's also used in a lot of different mechanical engineering industries, like automotive and stuff like that. Revit is great, and between Revit and ArchiCAD are the two main BIM softwares, building information modeling, which is used in architecture. And if you're trying to be an ArchViz artist, then BIM is something you want to learn, because that's the type of architects that you're going to be working with. You know, you're going to be doing that kind of stuff. You're going to be working with those kinds of files. We have another example that on this list that is free that can help you sort of learn that kind of thing. And I believe that ArchViz is one of the most probably still profitable jobs you can take in the 3D modeling industry. Sorry, my light is freaking out right now. I need to go fix this. All right, so we have all the Autodesk products. We have we also have Houdini Apprentice, which is probably the first one to really go and target that free educational license. And Houdini is amazing in their own right for doing this, because they used to be a multi-$1,000 software. I think it was costing somewhere like $10,000 for like a studio license to Houdini. It was the most inaccessible software on the market, because it was used by all these big studios for their crazy visual effects, and the stuff like TDs, technical directors, were using it for a lot of complex visual effects programming. And they had this strategy to make it completely free for educational. And that was a genius strategy that worked out for them, and everyone started copying them, including Autodesk, including like the Foundry. Everyone sort of saw how well it was working to getting people to use Houdini, as it was also probably one of the rarest things for artists to know back in the day. And now the whole industry's changed because of it. So Houdini Apprentice is, I believe it's a fully featured version of Houdini that is just for sort of personal educational use. But it'll help you learn Houdini, and you'll learn it, and you can get a job. Anyone who knows Houdini these days is going to get a job, because it's in high demand, but it's also for very smart people, I believe. I don't think Houdini should be for beginners, just because of how complicated it is. It's any sort of node-based software is always going to be a lot more complicated to learn, a higher barrier to entry than the linear sort of software that it competes with, but it's also more powerful in the end. So Houdini is used in all these, great procedural generation even for video games now with Houdini Engine. So if you're using Houdini Apprentice, you can use the procedural generation tools using Houdini Engine and plug that into Autodesk or Maxon, or even Unreal Engine, I believe, has Houdini support now, so you can use it to generate these procedural cities and stuff. Of course, Unreal Engine now has PCG, so that starts to compete with what Houdini is capable of, but it's not stopping you from importing your Houdini assets into Unreal Engine and using it to generate all sorts of cool procedural stuff. So if that's something you're interested in, that's amazing. We also have Faceform Wrap, which used to be called Russian 3D Scanner. Faceform is now the new company. I believe they're doing this because of the Russia-Ukraine war. They're trying to distance themselves from the Russian identity, since they are sort of a more multinational company, and they're very much trying to, maintain their reputation. But they have a great reputation as basically the only game in town for wrapping one 3D model to another. You're wrapping your 3D scans of people to a good topology, a good model of that's already been UV unwrapped, that's already optimized geometry. So you don't have to retopologize every single individual model. You just sort of wrap the retopologized model to the scan, and then you just reproject everything. That way you can reuse the same model, the same geometry, and have it be compatible with a bunch of different scans. And it allows you to take your 3D scans and project it onto something like MetaHumans, which allows you to use the whole fully featured facial rig that is amazing in MetaHumans, which is Unreal Engine. And it'll also be compatible with another option on this list, which is 3D Scan Store, which we'll talk about in just a sec. Yeah, they have a multi-expression Basemesh also. Stay tuned, spoiler alert. Anyway, so yeah, Faceform Wrap, free educational license to that, and ZWrap, which is their plugin for ZBrush. Again, ZBrush is not free. I believe you can get a educational license to Maxon products for about $20 processing fee, but that's their. I'm not including Maxon products on this category because it's not free. It's still, you still have to pay for it. But yeah, Faceform Wrap, and I do want to actually say, like, Houdini is the only other software that can actually do this kind of wrapping process. So like, you kind of have two options in the way of anything. So I'm glad that they did that, because if they didn't, then you really wouldn't have a whole lot of other options. I think Foundry software, like Nuke, which is the industry standard compositor, it is a node-based compositor versus After Effects. Again, a little bit more complicated to learn, but it will help you get a better job in the industry, since the industry is more using Nuke than After Effects, since it's more scalable and bigger productions. It's more, tailored to deal with that big of a pipeline, versus After Effects, which is a great compositor for indie artists, indie developers, like people who are doing small film projects that want to do visual effects with that. It's great, but it's not going to be scalable to huge studio projects. So if you want to learn Nuke and Modo, which is not really used that much anymore as a 3D package, or any of the other Foundry products, I believe you can get a free educational license. Their website is not super clear on that, and it is it's questionable as to whether you personally will be able to get one. I think you have to show them your school, and then depending on the school, it could be free for you. So I'm hesitant to put it on the list. I'm just gonna add it as a little disclaimer that you might not be able to get it for free, but for cheap, like $99 if you're not supported or something. But yeah, that's a little bit sketchy. Yeah, so all of that great stuff. A lot of free software out there. If there's anything I haven't mentioned, leave it in the comments. Hopefully, it'll be helpful to you guys that are just starting out, that want to learn the softwares, that are maybe students already. I also want to talk about Quixel Megascans. So Unreal Engine on its own is free, which is amazing, right? Unreal Engine is great, but one of the things that makes it the most powerful software, I think, most powerful free software out there, and yes, I'm looking at you, Blender, is Quixel Megascans, because it is the largest free library of 3D assets out there anywhere. Hands down. It is the largest library of photoscan 3D assets, of foliage and rocks, environmental pieces, buildings, everything you kind of need to build stuff, not just for games, but visual effects. Like they have the nanite quality assets, which nanite is the system in Unreal Engine that allows for unlimited detail for film quality assets to be used in real time. They have that level of detail that is perfect for visual effects. And I know actually Quixel Megascans were used in major productions like The Mandalorian, which where they're using these giant like virtual production LED screens. They're using Quixel Megascans in that. So you're not just using stuff that's like free quality. It's not demo quality. It's actually good shit, And it's completely free for anyone who's using Unreal Engine. If you want to use it outside of Unreal Engine, you will have to pay a subscription fee. So it's only free if you're using it inside of Unreal Engine. The moment you take it out, it's not free. But I'm including it on this list because all of you are probably going to want to use it in Unreal Engine, because that's how you take advantage of all that real-time visual effects, and then maybe use the path tracer to get the film level quality instead of having to do real-time rendering. So you can have your cake and eat it too, basically. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the Epic's free for the month marketplace assets. Something you maybe didn't know about, even if you're using Unreal Engine already. But Epic always has a category on their marketplace called free for the month. And what Epic does, it's the same thing that they do with their game library. Every single month, they will pick a selection from their catalog to make free for everyone. Now, this doesn't mean that they are they're just kind of giving it away. No, they are paying the developers who make these things. Every time someone purchases a free download, they are paying the developers directly. So Epic's eating the costs on this. They're not. So I really wholeheartedly suggest you go and buy those free assets every time they come around. Every month, just once a month, double check on the store, because they have these amazing options. Sometimes you'll find like $50 to $100. Sometimes it'll be $300 or $400 assets that are now free. And you never know when one of them is going to fit your project. When one of them is going to be the exact thing you needed. And a lot of them are also plugins that might be really useful. At one point they had Maui forests. Maui is one of the best names in the game in terms of digital foliage forests environments that are for sale, and famously not really free ever. So yeah, you might have seen them in Game Ranks or something. They were featuring the craziest Unreal Engine graphics. That's Maui. So I got one of their assets for free, and there's other plugins that I actually needed that will occasionally be free. So go and check it out now. So the next thing I want to talk about is Kitbash 3D. Now, I have a love-hate relationship with Kitbash 3D. I really think that they make some of the most amazing kits in the industry. I believe that it used to just be a love relationship, but I'm not a big fan of their current subscription model, which they have been using sort of predatory anti-consumer techniques, or should I say anti-artist techniques, in order to push people towards Cargo Pro, which is their current subscription model. The one I easily would have put them on the list this time, but I'm more hesitant to put on the list because now the kit that they have is Mission to Minerva. It is completely free. It's a fully featured kit for any kind of space environment. It's really great for moon bases or I believe they also have interiors here. Some great cool stuff for laboratories, and if you're trying to make a sci-fi sort of environment or film, this is perfect. And Kitbash themselves does some of the best stuff that you can just sort of throw together for an amazing looking background. I know even Ben Morrow, who is doing these this great short film, he's turning it into, I think, a full feature-length film. Huxley is his digital comic that he's turning into a film. It looks fucking incredible, man. But he's using, for some of the environments, he's using Kitbash assets. Don't discount it. It's used all the time in production. I've seen it even I think DC's Injustice. I noticed Kitbash assets in the background of the skyline. So you can use these stuff but all their kits are usually $100 to $200. On sale, a lot of them will be on 50% off. and it'll be like $100. I own maybe 5 or 6 kits of theirs, but I don't like how they are now associating everything as exclusive to Cargo. And now this Mission to Minerva kit is now exclusive to Cargo. It is a shame because I don't want to have to use Cargo to use Kitbash. And Cargo Pro is like they're every time they release a kit now, it's exclusive to Cargo Pro, and that makes it really scummy because you used to be able to own this stuff for $100 to $200. You could own Kitbash kits, and that's worth it to me. I think $100 to $200 for a kit you can reuse for many different projects, especially if you're doing a lot of different pieces of art in the same vein of things. I think that's exactly how an artist like Beeple was able to output a different render every single day. Not only did he have his own library of assets that he'd built up over time that he was reusing a lot of, he was also using Kitbash kits in order to just quickly get the daily renders out. Yeah, to the fact that you can't own it now and they're charging like $700 a month, or sorry, have $700 a year for a subscription, where you could pay the same amount of money previously and get 7 kits on sale or 6 or 7 kits on sale, and then you could own it for life. And digital ownership is worth way more to me than I feel a subscription where you would only own those kits for a year and then they're gone and you don't have them. So I think that's bullshit. Kitbash, get your shit together. Stop making things exclusive. Don't force people to use Cargo to use Mission to Minerva. It should just be there, Stop it. Stop it. You were on my good list. Okay, so next asset here is going to be the 3D Scan Store free assets, which are still actually what I consider to be some of the industry chads, because unlike Kitbash 3D, they have not pushed a subscription model, and they're continuing to put out good shit, and they're also the free shit that they do offer is too good to be free. But I believe that it's a really smart model for them, because their free shit provides an entry point into their paid ecosystem. That is, I feel like it's not predatory. So if we look at 3D Scan Store's website here, it's a little bit harder to find their free stuff. Their web design menu needs some work because it's actually like their website here is the menu's too big, so you can't really see the free section. It's a little bit weird. But if you search their website, you can find the multi-expression Basemesh, which is, in my opinion, probably the best, if not the second best, fax-based facial rig in the world, that exists that you can find. And fax is facial action coding system. It's not a system per se. It's more of a science of how to categorize facial expressions, because the face itself is a limited, it's an infinite amount of facial expressions that you can do. Facial action coding system is a way of sort of categorizing those expressions. So if you just sort of record or 3D scan or model X number of expressions, I believe it's 52 blend shapes, and then you blend between them, you can get the full range of human expression between all of those expressions. So it's every single expression is a different extreme that the face can contort in, and then between those expressions you can reproduce the full range of movement of the face, which would otherwise be unlimited. I know it sounds a little bit complicated, and it is. Making your own 3D face rig is almost impossible unless you are an expert rigger who understands the science of fax, of facial action coding system, who spends an enormous amount of time to make a facial rig for a single character. You are not going to be able to reproduce that on your own, and if you do, it's going to take a lot of time. The multi-expression Basemesh from 3D Scan Store is a super average base mesh that is already pre-designed to give that full range of motion, and it's compatible with every single other face scan that they have on their website. It's compatible with all of their high-resolution head scans and all of their facial textures, you know, black, white, Asian, like every skin color you can imagine. So if you go out and you buy the different textures, you can start building up a library of facial textures that allow you to really quickly sort of get out high fidelity, not just high fidelity, but hyper realistic characters. If you sculpt on your own base mesh, get the facial proportions you want, you can reuse the same skin textures for a bunch of different characters. And they have a bunch of texture maps that are also free now, you know, with makeup effects and scars and all that sort of thing, that are, you know, compatible with the same system basically. So you can reuse their facial base mesh. You can use the facial base mesh to create your own characters, and it provides not only a great starting point as a base mesh, but then all of that facial animation compatibility right on top of it. Now, the only other system I know in the world that even does that is probably MetaHumans. The MetaHumans for Unreal Engine, which is a pain in the ass to kind of work with, like to take a MetaHuman outside of Unreal Engine, sculpt on it yourself, and then bring it back into Unreal Engine is a little bit of a finicky sort of process. I'm still working it out myself. But if you want any of that sort of compatibility that MetaHumans have with this crazy range of facial animations and stuff, and you don't want to use Unreal Engine itself, the base mesh itself is great. And they also have a free head, I believe. I think it's been 2 free heads. I don't know if they changed up the free head that they offer if you subscribe to their mailing list to a different one. I believe it was a man before, it's a female now, or they might both be free. But you can get a free head, including the skin textures, including the normal maps and displacement and all that, completely for free, which is great to use if you're just trying to do test renders, or you want to build a character, you know, start working on like the armor or clothing or something, and you just want something that's really high fidelity to use. That is also, again, compatible with that multi-expression base mesh that allows you to get all those facial animations and stuff. So if you're just trying to test out facial animations and stuff, if you're an animator, that's perfect, you know. So 3D Scan Store, great guys, you know, and not only that, yeah, they also have their new MetaHuman identities, not free. Free texture maps that go with those, though. So if you're using MetaHumans, you may want to check out that, just because they offer a lot of different makeup effects and all sorts of things that you might want to use with your MetaHumans to give them sort of some nice character. So I wholeheartedly encourage you to go get their free shit, and also consider buying their paid shit, because they're making all this stuff free to get you sort of into the ecosystem, so you'll buy the paid shit. So when it's on sale, go for it, man. You know, I think if you're going to buy any assets, these are the ones. Some of the best 3D scanners in the industry. All right, moving on. All right, next thing I want to talk about is for ArchViz artists in particular, or people who are interested in ArchViz that want to learn ArchViz. Again, I told you, if you are a student, you can learn all of the Autodesk software for free. Now, one of those is Autodesk Revit. So if you are a 3D artist, you don't really have any experience in architecture, but you want to learn how to work with architects because you know there's money there. You can go and download Revit and play with it today, but there is a bunch of free demo projects from Enscape. Now, Enscape, I found out about them from an architect friend of mine who was, I was asking like how would one go about sort of learning the process of working with a project that would be a typical sort of design project that comes from an architect, and then bring that into like something like Twinmotion or Unreal Engine to play around with and do architectural visualization. and then she recommended this to me. So that there is a bunch of demo projects here from Enscape that are compatible with ArchiCAD or Revit or SketchUp, and the bottom two, SketchUp and Revit, are actually, you have the potential to get Revit for free if you're a student, and SketchUp is free. And then you can also bring those projects in using a Datasmith, the Datasmith plugin for Unreal Engine or Twinmotion, and basically import those into Unreal Engine, which will give you a great environment, a great real estate environment to start playing with if you want to try all the lighting, and you want to try stepping up your rendering game, So it provides like a really great jumping off point for learning this specific type of thing. And if you're trying to show off your renders and stuff and you're not interested in modeling stuff, it's a great option out there. Moving on, I want to talk about all of the free shit you can find on Gumroad. Gumroad is an awesome resource. It connects you with individual creators who are doing their own sort of thing. It really puts you with the men on the street of the art industry and allows you to pay for their shit directly, and I think that's great. One of the packs that I want to talk about that's free in particular is the Orb Brush Pack for Zbrush. It is great. I use it. Orb Cracks is a really great brush. There's a bunch of them there, in that brush pack, but there are actually so many free brush packs for Zbrush or brush packs for Photoshop, alphas, even 3D assets if you look on Gumroad. It's a little bit tricky to find the Gumroad discovery page. The main portal for it is not really super accessible. I will put a link in the description of a Gumroad page. You want to filter it by the free assets of your category, and then you can just find a bunch of stuff. There's the Orb Brush Pack. There's a bunch of free stuff. I'm gonna have a bunch of great stuff for you to find. I'll have a link in the description. The next thing I want to talk about is the Advanced Locomotion system for Unreal Engine. Advanced Locomotion system is a plugin that I've found that I've used many times before. You'll even find it in some AAA games. You can notice the animations from it. It is probably the best locomotion system template for a game out there, like that exists, that is also free. Now, if you go to the website for Advanced Locomotion System, you will see that the line from the developer is, if you love something, let it go, make it free. And that is, I think, much respect to that mentality, because I think it's one of the best tools for Unreal Engine. It got the Epic Mega Grants at one point. And all you have to do is sort of bring your character in, retarget it to the Advanced Locomotion System character, the dummy that they have, and then your character, whatever you've made, will automatically be compatible with all of this great movement functionality where the character can run, slow down, pick up things. It has a bunch of different overlay states, which can be a little bit tricky to work with, but it gives you basically all of the different types of gun holding objects, holding a torch or something. Like, it's got all of these great overlay states already built, and you can build your own. Again, that's a little bit tricky to sort of build your own overlay state for different types of things, but it allows you to sort of dynamically change the gait or posture of the character for different things, and it also has all these like the perfect animations and functionality for grappling onto objects automatically, like climbing a wall or that sort of thing. So if you're looking for a solution that is going to give you all of that great animation, you want to just, you're a modeler and you just want to see your project come to life right before your eyes as soon as you've got the rig done, that is probably the best solution on the market. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is maybe something that will tie into that, which is Mixamo. Mixamo is an incredible tool owned by Adobe, of all people, what I think is some of the most anti-consumer softwares on the market. Acquired Mixamo, which is a tool for real-time, not real-time, which is a tool for creating character rigs, humanoid character rigs, automatically using machine learning. And it's probably one of the coolest free softwares out there that does something that maybe shouldn't be free, and I'm surprised that Adobe still hasn't tried to monetize it. I'm really glad that they haven't, because it needs to be a free resource so people can continue to use it. And I've been wondering at what point will it stop being supported? What point will they take it off the market? So I was worried about that, and then I was glad to see that a competing software came out called Accurig from Character Creator, from the Reallusion, the creators of Character Creator, that it does basically the same thing, but it's not a cloud service. So you have two different options there. If you're trying to rig your humanoid characters that are coming out of something like Blender or ZBrush, this is probably the best way to do it very quickly. It's not necessarily the best way to do it to get the best results, but it's to do it very quickly and to have right out of the box within minutes something that feels alive, and then you can go and take those Mixamo characters and then retarget them to advanced locomotion system, and even use Mixamo animations with that system. So it's not only is it a character rigging solution for humanoid characters, it's also a library of motion capture animations that are completely free, and characters that are completely free. The Mixamo characters that are already built into Mixamo are I've seen many game developers using them in order to have them as sort of temporary assets for their games, because it's so easy to use the Mixamo characters, use the animations that are associated with them, and then go and just replace those characters with another Mixamo rigged character, because the rig is cross-compatible. So if you're using the Mixamo characters as sort of temporary assets that you can then replace once you've created a bespoke model for that purpose, it sort of streamlines your pipeline, so you're not constantly worrying about, like, do I have this finished before I start coding the functionality for this character or this NPC? You can go and do that, and then reuse the same skeleton, which is already compatible with all the animations you plugged in and the functionality you've made there in Unreal Engine or Unity or Godot or whatever software you're using. So Mixamo is great, and I'm really glad Accurig exists now too, because now we have a non-cloud-based solution, which will allow us to sort of do the same thing. And that means that it's permanent. It means that if you can always download it and keep it. And if Mixamo ever gets taken offline, which I expect that it will at some point, knowing Adobe, how many softwares they've killed, it probably will. But I use Mixamo still. I use it all the time. And as a modeler who doesn't like rigging, I mean, I know some rigging, but I'm not really super, it's not how I like to spend my time a lot of times. And if I'm just trying to get something out there, Mixamo is how I do it. The last thing that I want to talk about is photogrammetry software. Because if you are not a modeler and you can't find the kinds of assets that you want on Quixel Megascans or the Epic Games Store, or you just don't want to pay for the assets that do match your sort of use case, there is a great option for you. Just steal from the world. Use photogrammetry. 3D scan your assets. It is a really great, the process is a little bit more complicated than just 3D scan the shit and be done. You need to process the textures. But I'll give you an example of something that's free for that as well. But as far as free photogrammetry software, do not use the mobile apps. They suck. They are terrible. Mobile photogrammetry apps are awful. I don't like them. You can use your cell phone to take the photos. Just upload those to your computer, use the computer software. So what we're talking about is Alicevision Meshroom, which is a free software for Windows for photogrammetry, which is also one of the best ones out there. And again, we have another one for Mac. Meshroom is not compatible with Windows, but what is compatible Meshroom is not compatible with Mac, but what is compatible with Mac is Photocatch. Photocatch is built with Apple's own photogrammetry API, which means that it's optimized for Apple Silicon, which means that it runs really, really fast. It's actually one of the fastest photogrammetry apps on the market. It's capable of getting really, really high fidelity results. So those are two options for free photogrammetry for 3D scanning from pictures, and doing so with really high quality results. Now, if you are trying to do photogrammetry and you want to use those models with another program, you will probably need to delight your 3D scans. They will probably not be usable out of the box just because you will still see the shadows that are a part of the process. You have to get rid of those shadows for them to be production quality assets. Now that can be a pain in the ass, and you may end up exporting it to something like Zbrush, retopologizing it, exporting those textures, and going into the UV maps in something like Photoshop, and having to use the clone stamp tool or paint out different areas. That's kind of a pain in the ass. It is probably the best way to do it if you know what you're doing. You can kind of delight things and get rid of the shadows in your texture maps, your UV maps, which photogrammetry will not give you good UVs out of the box. You do need to retopologize and reproject it to get the good ones. But if you don't like doing that process, or you're not as good, there is a free software out there that will let you delight your photogrammetry scans. And that software is from a company that otherwise offers a paid software, one of the best in the industry, but a paid software that competes with Meshroom and Photocatch, which is Agisoft Metashape. But that is not the software I'm talking about today, because I'm talking about free software. I am talking about Agisoft Delight. And Agisoft Delight is a free delighting software. You import your 3D scans. It does not have to be from Metashape. You can import stuff you get from Photocatch. You can import stuff you get from Meshroom. You can even import stuff that you get from your shitty mobile app, but that will allow you to sort of import it, tweak a few settings, and pretty much automatically delight stuff. They have an automatic algorithm which allows you to sort of remove shadows and ambient occlusion, but there's also a more manual process where you will sort of paint on the surface where you want the shadows to be removed, where the harshest lighting is, and it'll try to automatically balance those out, based on the masks that you provide. It doesn't have to be super precise, quick and dirty, but Agisoft Delight, great software for free. It's compatible with their paid software. It's also compatible with stuff you can get for free. So if you are trying to make film quality assets, all you need is a smartphone or another digital camera. If you're if you got a DSLR or something, that's obviously better, a mirrorless camera, and just take it, go out, shoot as sharp photos as you can with the highest shutter speed you can, the lowest ISO you can, and the least depth of field you can. Go out and shoot those assets, and then, go out and shoot those photos to try to shoot 100, 200 photos from different angles with overlapping features. Reconstruct them, then delight them, and you can bring them into something like Unreal Engine and use them as assets. That is how Quixel does their stuff, you know. They have a little bit of a more complicated process, but you can get Quixel level or almost Quixel level assets of your own using these free techniques, you know. So yeah, you don't have to have the best stuff, you know. You don't have to have super expensive 3D scanning equipment. You could go and do it with the smartphone if you need to. Anyway, that concludes this video of all of the greatest stuff out there for free. If there's anything I missed, put it in the comments. And I may do another one of these videos for audio production. If you're an audio engineer or a musician, there is a ton of free stuff out there as well, so let me know if there's demand for that. If there's any more that I've missed, if there's enough to make another video, I will. Because I love free shit. I'm sure all of you love free shit. So let's go out and make art with as much free software as we can. Get as much value from it as we can. All right, guys, until next time, I've been Ben Flight, and you guys are the best.